When the Solace horizon finally crossed the edge of the Perseus boundary, everyone on board felt the same mix of excitement and fear. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. For the first time, a human ship was entering deep space beyond the known star charts. The mission was peaceful, simple in purpose, but huge in meaning. Reach new worlds, meet new life, and tell the galaxy that humans came with open hands, not weapons. Captain Mara Elion stood at the front of the command deck, watching the stars slide across the display. She was calm, but inside her heart was beating faster than usual. She had trained all her life for diplomacy. She had solved conflicts between colonies, helped negotiate peace between rival mining groups on Mars, and even convinced two corporate factions to stop a resource war. If anyone could guide humanity into the galaxy, it was her. Her crew trusted her not because she was strict, but because she listened. She believed that most problems could be solved with patience and kindness. She hoped the galaxy felt the same way. The journey had taken nearly 3 years. The crew had become a family: scientists, explorers, engineers, and translators. Some were young and hopeful, eager to see alien life. Others were older, carrying memories of Earth's struggles, proud to represent their home. Many wondered what kind of civilizations existed out here. Would aliens look like humans? Would they communicate through sound, light, or something completely unknown? Would they be peaceful, dangerous, curious? All they could do was guess. As the ship moved deeper into new territory, they activated their transponder. This was a signal meant to show peaceful intention. It carried a message in 1,000 languages, both human and mathematical. It repeated the same idea again and again. We come in peace. We seek knowledge. We offer friendship. The crew gathered around screens, watching the broadcast go out into the silent dark. But what they did not know, what they could not even imagine, was that their signal was not entering empty space. It was entering a network of listening posts placed by many alien nations. These stations had one purpose: to warn the galaxy if a certain ancient enemy ever returned. That enemy was a species called the Hilari, and although humanity had never heard of them, their appearance was almost identical to humans. Tall, two-legged, soft-skinned, with expressive faces and voices capable of a wide range of tones. Thousands of years earlier, the Hilari had been nearly wiped out in a terrible war. The survivors were believed to be gone, their homeworlds burned. The stories of them had become half history, half feared, so when the Solace Horizon's human signal reached the nearest listening post, alarms lit up across dozens of star systems. The machines did not know what humans were. They only recognized the general shape, the voice frequencies, the biological markers. To their ancient programming, the signal meant only one thing: the Hilari had returned. Back on the Solace Horizon, nothing seemed strange. The crew waited for any reply. Hours passed, then a day. The communications officers kept adjusting frequencies and scanning for messages. Everyone was hopeful. They believed silence meant that alien civilizations were simply far away or slow to respond. Humanity had spent so long imagining that first contact would be gentle and beautiful. Movies had shown peaceful meetings under glowing lights. Children on Earth had grown up dreaming of friendly aliens welcoming humans into a bigger family of stars. No one ever prepared for the possibility that the galaxy already had its own history, its own old wounds, and its own reasons to fear something that looked like a human. Captain Elion walked through the ship, talking with her crew. She liked to keep spirits high. She told them stories of Earth: how oceans smelled, how forests sounded during storms, how crowds cheered the day humanity announced the mission. The crew laughed and shared their own memories. For a moment, the ship felt warm and normal, as if they were not far from home but simply on a long journey together. Meanwhile, in distant star systems, leaders gathered in emergency councils. Some worlds panicked, remembering stories told to scare children, tales of the cruel Hilari, of wars that consumed entire planets, of a species that nearly conquered the galaxy. Other worlds dismissed the fear, saying the Hilari had been destroyed long ago. But uncertainty spread like a virus. Could they have survived? Could they have evolved? Could they have returned with a new plan? The Varan Empire reacted the fastest. They had been the old enemy of the Hilari, the ones who fought them most fiercely. When their sensors confirmed that the human ship's biological signatures matched the old records, they sent fleets toward the border. Their military commanders believed they were preventing a second galactic disaster. In their minds, this was not aggression, it was survival. Back on the Solace Horizon, the crew finally detected something unusual, a faint energy ripple in the distance. They didn't know it was a Varan scanning probe. They thought it might be an alien ship trying to reach them. People cheered. Scientists prepared translation tools. Some put on their formal uniforms, ready for a diplomatic meeting. Captain Elion felt a mix of pride and nervousness. This could be the moment history remembered forever. But as she looked out into the stars, she sensed something she could not explain. A heaviness, a tension, something not quite right. It was as if the silence around them was not peaceful, it was watching. The probe scanned them again. This time the energy wave made the Solace Horizon's lights flicker. Engineers rushed to check systems. The ship was unharmed, but the crew grew uneasy. They kept telling themselves that maybe this was simply how aliens communicated through energy pulses instead of words. Hours later, the first clear reading appeared on the sensors. Multiple ships were approaching. Not slowly, not cautiously, but at military speed. Captain Elion felt her stomach tighten. She ordered calm, but her voice carried a strain no one had heard before. The crew stood at their stations, waiting for the ships to broadcast a message, a greeting, a request, a question, anything, but no message came. The alien ships stayed silent. The distance closed. Everyone on the Asolus horizon understood in the same moment. Whoever was coming did not want to talk, but humanity still believed in peace. Captain Elion ordered the communication team to send the standard greeting again, louder and clearer. She hoped the alien ships would realize the humans wanted friendship. When the message went out, the alien fleet slowed for a moment, as if listening. Then the lead warship charged its weapons. A bright beam of energy shot across space and struck the human shields. The ship trembled. Alarms rang. Lights flashed red. They had not been greeted, they had been warned. Inside the ship, fear spread like fire. Some officers whispered that they must have made a mistake. Others insisted it was a misunderstanding. A few asked if they should raise weapons. But Captain Elion refused. She kept repeating the same words. Do not fire. Do not provoke. She believed this could still be fixed. She believed there had to be a peaceful explanation. But the truth was bigger than anything humans could guess. Their arrival had not created a misunderstanding. It had awakened an old nightmare. Across the galaxy, worlds were preparing for war, all because humanity looked like a dangerous ghost from the past. As the Solus horizon shook under the pressure of the enemy's warning shot, Captain Elion realized that this first contact would not be remembered as a peaceful moment of discovery. It would be remembered as the spark that lit a galaxy on fire. The crew stared at the stars outside, no longer filled with wonder but with fear. They had come to make friends, but now the entire galaxy believed there was something else, something deadly, and none of them knew how to change that asterisk across the galaxy. The alarm triggered by the human signal spread faster than any ship could travel. Warning beacons flashed in ancient stations, sending signals to governments, military councils, and old alliances. Most people living in those distant worlds had never even heard of Earth or humans, but they all knew one name from their history lessons. One name whispered like a curse, the Hilari. Thousands of years ago, long before humans even learned to use fire, the galaxy had been torn apart by a terrible war. The Hilari were a powerful species, intelligent, ambitious, and gifted in technology. They spread across star systems at incredible speed. Some worlds welcomed them, others feared them. The Varan Empire, strongest among the old civilizations, warned that the Hilari wanted to control everything. What began as political tension grew into the largest conflict the galaxy had ever seen. History claimed that the Hilari were destroyed in the end. Their home world was burned, their fleets shattered, and their colonies abandoned. The survivors disappeared into deep space and were never seen again. But their story did not fade. It lived on as a mixture of truth and fear, retold in classrooms, military academies, and even children's bedtime stories. And then came the humans. Their ship, the Solus Horizon, carried a signal that matched ancient biological records of the Hilari almost perfectly. The shape of their bodies, the sound range of their voices, the chemical makeup of their cells, all of it brought back memories. The galaxy never wanted to remember. In worlds they have never seen. They are innocent, unaware, sending peaceful messages into space while entire civilizations panic at their arrival. On the world of Cerebon, home to the Council of 12 Nations, diplomats and generals met in an enormous chamber made of shining blue crystal. The air was tense. Representatives from many species argued loudly, each convinced they alone understood the danger. Some shouted that the galaxy must act immediately. Others demanded proof. A few suggested waiting and watching. But fear was stronger than logic. One counselor, a tall insect-like being named Therax, slammed her claws on the table. We cannot wait. The Hilari nearly destroyed us once. If they have returned, we must strike first. Another counselor, a small amphibian creature with gentle eyes, spoke softly. These beings may not be the Hilari. They may simply look similar. We risk starting a war with an innocent species. But his voice was drowned out by others shouting for action. On another world, in the capital of the Varan Empire, the atmosphere was even more intense. The Varan remembered the Hilari better than anyone. Their history was built on that old war. The statues of Varan warriors stood outside every city, celebrating the victory over their ancient enemy. They taught their children that the Hilari were monsters without mercy. When the human signal reached their command center, panic spread instantly. Not just fear but guilt. After all, the Varan had been the ones to push hardest for the destruction of the Hilari. If the species had somehow survived, they would surely seek revenge. High Commander Yalvik stood in front of a holographic display showing the human biological scan. His voice was cold. We cannot let this species reach our space. If even one ship enters our territory, it may be the first step of another Hilari invasion. His advisors nodded, their expressions tight with worry. But Commander One warned, we don't know if they truly are the same species. Yalvik did not hesitate. Do you want to find out after they attack us? After they spread across our colonies? After they rebuild the power they once had? The Varan Parliament authorized the immediate deployment of battle fleets. Hundreds of ships moved out of dockyards, preparing for war not because they wanted conquest, but because they were terrified. Fear is a powerful weapon. It can twist logic, reshape reason, and convince entire nations to act without thinking. Meanwhile, in distant star systems, regular citizens watched the news with growing fear. Holographic broadcasts showed images of the old Helarital, human-like, expressive. People gasped at the resemblance. Many worlds demanded their leaders take action. Some even began evacuating border planets, afraid the Hilari might already be hiding in nearby space. Rumors flew through the networks. They've returned, they want revenge. They're stronger now. They're pretending to be peaceful. No one knew the truth. And in that vacuum of information, fear filled every corner. But not all species reacted with terror. A few remembered the past more clearly. They knew the Hilari had not been purely evil. They had also been victims of political lies, exaggerations, and propaganda. Some historians believe the war had been caused by misunderstandings, not malice. These scholars warned their governments not to jump to conclusions. However, calm voices rarely win in moments of crisis. The Alliance of Soft Worlds, a group of peaceful planets, voted to wait before judging the newcomers. They believed the humans deserved a chance. Their leaders sent quiet messages to nearby systems, urging caution. But their influence was small compared to the larger, more fearful nations. In every council chamber, another question rose. What if this is not the only ship? If the Solace Horizon was only the first, the galaxy might soon face an entire species of human-like beings. Some leaders imagined fleets of human ships arriving. Others imagined armies. A few feared that humanity would bring diseases, invasive technology, or cultural takeover. One by one, civilizations aligned with one of two positions. Destroy the newcomers before they become a threat. Try to communicate and learn the truth. It did not take long for pressure to build. On a shadowy moon orbiting the planet Krell, an intelligence agency analyzed the human message carefully. One officer found something strange. Humans described themselves with peaceful language, offering friendship and cooperation. But the agency believed this was a trick. The Hilari used diplomacy too. The officer reminded his team. They spoke peace while building fleets. Another analyst disagreed. The tone feels genuine. The structure of their language is different. They may not be the Hilari, but his opinion was ignored. Across the galaxy, military commanders sharpened their strategies. Politicians prepared speeches. Scientists studied the human signal, trying to decide whether these beings were truly dangerous. What made everything worse was the lack of information. Humans thought they were introducing themselves politely, but they did not know the galaxy had been traumatized long ago. They did not know which words were sensitive, which signals were dangerous, or which biological markers might trigger panic. Their peaceful greeting, "We come in peace," had been a phrase the Hilari once used to. Too many alien species, it sounded like a threat hidden behind politeness. The galaxy had scars, and those scars opened the moment the human transmission arrived. Meanwhile, the Solace Horizon sailed peacefully through space, unaware of the storm forming around it. The crew continued doing their daily tasks. Scientists collected star data. Engineers checked engines. Translators practiced phrases they hoped to use when they met alien life. No one realized that a network of alien ships was already moving into position. Captain Mara Elion studied the distant stars, unaware that entire worlds were debating her existence. She believed in cooperation. She believed humanity was ready to join the galaxy as partners, not conquerors. Her optimism was genuine and full of hope. But far away, in the Varan capital, Commander Yalvik stared at a map showing the location of the human ship. "We cannot allow history to repeat itself," he told his officers. "Prepare the fleet. We will intercept them before they spread." On another world, a historian sent a desperate message to her government. "This is a mistake. We cannot judge a species by appearance alone. We must communicate first." But her message was lost in the chaos. Across the galaxy, communications networks buzzed with fear. Even neutral planets, those far from the borders, prepared emergency shelters. Everyone remembered the old war as if it had happened yesterday. No one ever imagined that an innocent human ship, sent with the dream of peace, could trigger so much fear. No one imagined that the galaxy was about to break into two sides, those who wanted to protect humanity, and those who wanted to destroy it before it became a threat. And no one imagined that the misunderstanding would soon explode into something uncontrollable. All because of an old scar. All because of a species that looked like a ghost. All because humans did not know the story they had stepped into. The moment the Solace Horizon tried to open peaceful communication, everything changed. The crew had spent days sending friendly messages into space, hoping someone would reply. They had no idea that dozens of alien eyes were already watching them, judging them and fearing them. They did not know that entire governments were arguing about them. They did not know that fleets were moving across the stars because of them. To the humans, this was still a mission of peace. To the galaxy, this was the return of a nightmare. Inside the ship, the communication team worked hard, adjusting frequencies and preparing greetings in different mathematical patterns. Captain Mara Elion believed that mathematics would be the universal language of peace. She stood beside the main console, listening closely as her officer repeated the message. We come in peace. We seek knowledge. We offer friendship. Simple words. Gentle words. Words meant to start a new chapter of history. But the galaxy didn't hear peace. The galaxy heard danger. After hours of silence, the ship finally detected something. A narrow signal, sharp, strange, and cold. The transmission was short, only a few seconds long, but it made everyone on board freeze. It wasn't like any friendly communication. There were no words, no tones, no attempts at translation. It was more like a warning, a sign that someone was watching and deciding what to do, before anyone could understand the signal. The ship's shields flashed with sudden light. A bright energy beam scraped across the side of the Solace horizon, shaking the decks. The alarms screamed. Crew members grabbed onto rails. Tools fell. Sparks cracked from panels. It wasn't a direct hit, but it was close enough to send a message louder than words. Stay away. Do not come any closer. You are not welcome. Some officers panicked. Are we under attack? Engineers shouted orders, trying to stabilize the power lines. Medical staff rushed to help a technician who had fallen. The smell of burned circuits filled the air. But Captain Elion raised her voice above the noise. Hold positions. Do not fire. This could be a misunderstanding. Even in chaos, her voice carried calm. Some crew members felt reassured, but others were terrified. A few whispered to each other. Why did they fire? What did we do wrong? Are they warning us? Or hunting us? The truth was darker than any of them realized. Daunt and the alien fleet approaching them. Varan ships built for war commanders studied the humans with suspicion. They believed the humans were Hilari in disguise. They believed the friendly greetings were a trick. In their history, the Hilari had always begun with peace talks, then slowly took control. The Varan officers were convinced they were stopping a second invasion. So, when the Solace horizon sent its peaceful message again, the aliens interpreted it as a sign of manipulation. Their screens translated the human words into their own language. We come in peace appeared on their monitors as we seek to deceive. The Varan commander scowled. Classic Hilari strategy, he growled. Pretend kindness, then strike back on the human ship. Captain Elion did everything she could to keep her crew calm. She ordered a diagnostic of the shields, then asked her translation specialists to try analyzing the earlier strange signal. Maybe it meant something important. Maybe they could still fix this. But the second scan from the alien fleet hit the ship harder. Lights flickered. Systems rebooted. One of the engines temporarily shut down. The crew worked desperately to keep the ship steady. The shaking nearly knocked some people off their feet. One officer shouted, "Captain, this pattern is a military lock." Everyone stared at him. A lock-on meant only one thing. The alien ships were not just watching, they were preparing for attack, yet still. Captain Elion refused to give in to fear. "Open the emergency wideband channel," she said. "Let every ship hear us." The officer obeyed, though his hands were trembling. Captain Elion spoke slowly, clearly, with a voice full of sincerity. "To any civilization receiving this message, we are explorers from Earth. We have no hostile intentions. We request communication to avoid conflict. We seek peace." Her voice echoed across space. She hoped anyone would listen with an open mind. But on distant worlds, her message had the opposite effect. News networks replayed her words with frightening commentary. Analysts claimed her tone was too calm, that the Hilari used similar emotional control. Some military experts insisted the humans were lying. Citizens panicked, demanding their governments protect them. When the message reached the Varan fleet, the commander slammed his fist against the display. "Enough of this act," he said. "Prepare weapons." Back on the Solace horizon, the sensors detected multiple objects surrounding them. Small, fast-moving metallic dots, drones, hundreds of them. They formed a ring around the human ship, trapping it in a cage of steel and light. "Captain, this is an attack formation," the tactical officer whispered. Fear began to spread through the crew. Some people imagined death. Others imagined being captured by aliens. A few thought of their families back home, watching the stars without knowing what danger their loved ones were in. Captain Elion stepped forward. "Hold your positions. No one fires unless I say so." Her leadership kept the ship from collapsing into panic. But inside her heart, fear twisted like a dagger. She understood now. This was no misunderstanding. This was something much bigger. Something rooted in a history humanity did not know. The alien fleet finally sent a message, but not a peaceful one. It was a harsh broadcast, translated by the ship's computer. A cold, robotic voice echoed through the bridge. "Identify your true species. Identify your intentions. You are in restricted space. Any further movement will be treated as an act of war." The crew stared at the screen in shock. "True species." Someone murmured, "What does that mean? Do they think we're lying about being human?" Captain Elion stepped forward again. She responded with calm dignity. "This is Captain Mara Elion of the human vessel Solace Horizon. We are not your enemy. We are only explorers. Please explain your concerns." We wish to avoid conflict. Her message went out into space. Everyone waited. Seconds passed, then minutes. Then the reply came. Another energy beam struck the ship, harder this time, shaking the entire vessel. Panels broke free. Sparks rained down. A fire alarm blared. Someone screamed. The ship spun slightly before stabilizing. That this was not a warning shot. This was a threat, a test. Would the humans fight back? But Captain Elion refused to give the aliens what they expected. "We will not return fire," she said. "If they want to kill us, then fighting will only confirm their fears." Her officers looked at her with disbelief, but they obeyed. She was risking everything: live submission, and possibly humanity's first chance at interstellar diplomacy, but she believed deeply that violence would only make things worse. Unknown to her, that beam attack was exactly the moment when the galaxy made its decision. News networks everywhere reported, the Hilari are resisting, the newcomers refuse surrender, the humans are preparing for war. It was the opposite of truth, but fear is louder than truth. Inside the alien fleets, soldiers read orders to prepare for full engagement. Some felt uneasy. Some wondered if the humans really were innocent. But military orders drowned out doubt. Back on the Solace horizon, the crew worked to repair damaged systems. Captain Elion gathered her officers for an emergency meeting. "We are dealing with a misunderstanding on a galactic scale," she said. "They think we are someone else. We must show them we are not who they fear. But we need to survive long enough to explain." Her officers nodded, though worry filled their eyes. "How do we do that, Captain?" one asked. Elion looked at the holographic map showing the encircling alien fleet. "We stay calm," she whispered, "and we keep trying to talk." Outside the window, alien ships moved closer, ready to strike. Inside the ship, humans prepared a final attempt at peace, and across the galaxy, fear began turning into military action. This was the moment the galaxy tipped. This was the moment when misunderstanding became danger. This was the moment when a peaceful human ship was pushed into the center of a storm, and none of them could stop it now. The moment the Varan destroyer collided with the human landing shuttle. Everything that had been trembling quietly in the shadows finally broke wide open. For days, the Solace horizon had been surrounded, threatened, and warned by alien fleets that believed the humans were an ancient enemy. Captain Mara Elion kept trying to send peaceful messages, but fear is a powerful thing, too powerful to stop with words alone. When the collision happened, no one cared about details. No one cared about accidents. No one cared about truth. Across the galaxy, everyone saw the same shocking report. A Varan ship and the human shuttle have destroyed each other. Casualties confirmed most civilizations. This was proof that humanity, the returning Hilari, had fired the first shot of a new war. The truth was much simpler and sadder. The Varan destroyer had been scanning the human shuttle at extremely close range. The shuttle's pilot was trying to pull back. A small engine malfunction caused a tiny drift. That drift, only a few centimeters, put the shuttle into the destroyer's path. The alien ship tried to correct course at the same time. Their engines misread each other's movements. In seconds, the two vessels crashed into each other with enough force to ignite their fuel systems. 2 explosions. 2 crews dead. No anger, no intention. Just a terrible accident at the worst possible moment. But the galaxy didn't see an accident. It saw a spark. It saw a match dropped onto dry leaves. Within hours, millions of messages flew across star networks. Leaders blamed each other. Citizens panicked. Military commanders demanded retaliation. Even neutral planets struggled to calm their populations. In the Varan Empire, angry crowds filled city streets. They shouted at enormous screens showing footage of the collision. Commentators claimed the humans had rammed the Varan ship on purpose. Others insisted the humans faked the crash to look innocent. The Varan government released a statement. "We will not allow our people to be murdered. We must act." To them, the humans had confirmed every fear they already believed. Across the galaxy, the opposite reaction also formed. Some species believed the Varan had attacked the humans first. They saw the humans as victims. They argued that it made no sense for a peaceful exploration vessel to start a war. A philosopher from the world, Yaren, spoke on a popular broadcast. "Fear has blinded us. These new beings are not the monsters in our stories. We must help them." This simple message began spreading like fire, giving rise to a growing coalition that wanted to protect the humans, and so, without a single shot fired by human hands, 2 great groups formed in the galaxy. One side wanted to defend humanity. The other demanded their destruction. On the Solace horizon, the news hit like a hammer. Captain Elion watched reports appear on her screens, each more terrifying than the last. She saw planets announcing military readiness. She saw fleets being prepared. She saw political leaders accusing each other. The crew gathered silently behind her, staring at the screens, unable to speak. One young officer whispered, "We caused this." Without doing anything, Elion closed her eyes for a moment. She felt the enormous weight pressing on her chest. She had wanted to bring peace, but her presence had become the center of a war she never imagined. The alien fleets surrounding them tightened formation. Now they weren't just watching, they were trapping the humans, ensuring they could not escape. Every minute, more alien ships arrived from distant systems. Their weapons glowed. Their shields shifted into battle mode. The Solace horizon was like a lone boat surrounded by a storm of steel. Inside the ship, engineers worked urgently to repair damaged systems, but the atmosphere was tense. The crew felt like they were standing on the edge of death. Some whispered that they should prepare to fight. Others cried quietly, thinking about their families back home. A few wanted to surrender, though they weren't sure who to surrender to. Captain Elion stood in the center of the bridge, feeling every emotion of her crew. She knew she had to make a decision, one that could decide the fate of humanity. She called for an emergency meeting. Officers gathered around her, their faces pale, their expressions tight. "We are in a situation no explorer has ever faced," Elion began. "Our arrival has awakened old fears. Entire nations believe we are their ancient enemies. They are reacting out of pain, not truth." One officer spoke up. "But they won't listen, Cap. They think everything we say is a trick." Another added, "If they attack, we can't survive. Our ship isn't built for war." Elion knew all of this. She felt it deeply. The ship could not fight a fleet. They could barely keep the shields running. Then someone asked the question everyone feared. "Captain, what if they don't want peace? What if they've already decided?" Elion looked around the room at her crew: scientists, engineers, explorers, translators, people who believed in discovery, not destruction, people who trusted her to guide them. She felt a heavy sorrow, but also a fierce determination. "We cannot give up," she said quietly. "If we accept war, then we become exactly what they fear. If we fight, we confirm their nightmare. Our only hope is to show them who we truly are." "But how do you convince an entire galaxy of frightened nations that you're not the monster they remember?" Elion paced for a moment, thinking. Then she realized there was only one option left: a message so raw, so honest, that no propaganda could twist it. She went to the communication console, opened all channels, wideband, every frequency. "I want the whole galaxy to hear this." The officers exchanged nervous glances. No human had ever spoken to billions of beings at once, but they obeyed. A countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The mic clicked on. Captain Elion's voice traveled farther than any human voice had ever traveled. "I am Captain Mara Elion of the human ship Solace Horizon. We did not come to fight you. We did not come to invade your lands or repeat the tragedies of your past. We are not the We don't know their history. We don't know your pain, but we feel the fear around us, and we understand why this confusion has happened." Her voice trembled not with fear, but with emotion. "You have lost lives today. So have we. But the truth is simple. This was an accident between two frightened ships. Both sides panicked. Both sides made mistakes. We cannot let this accident start another galaxy-wide war." Her words spread across star systems, through comm stations, through military ships preparing to fire. Billions of beings watched her speak. Her eyes were tired. Her uniform was damaged. She looked scared but honest. "We ask only for a chance," she said. "A chance to speak. A chance to prove ourselves. A chance to live." She paused. "If you need to take me to your leaders, I will come alone. If you need someone to blame, blame me. But do not punish my crew, or my people, for a war none of us meant to start." Silence stretched across the galaxy. Some species cried as they watched her speak. Some felt their anger soften. Some questioned their leaders for the first time, but others hardened their hearts. They believed her speech was manipulation. They believed it was a performance. In the Varan capital, the High Commander watched her calmly. "She speaks well," he said. His advisor asked, "Should we answer?" The commander shook his head. "No, prepare the attack wave." But on other worlds that had been quiet before, people began to rise in protest. "Talk to the humans. Stop the war. Listen before you destroy." The galaxy had split in half. One side calling for peace, one side preparing for total war. And the humans were in the middle, helpless, outnumbered, and holding on to hope with shaking hands. The largest coalition meeting in centuries was called. Leaders argued for hours. They shouted. They accused. They demanded action. The tension in that chamber was so fierce that translators struggled to keep up. Finally, the votes were counted. War had not started yet, but neither had peace. Instead, the galaxy fell into a terrifying pause, a fragile moment where one wrong move could ignite everything. On the Solace horizon, Captain Elion looked out at the stars and whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." She was right. What had started as a misunderstanding was now a fuse, burning slowly, and the galaxy was holding its breath, waiting for the explosion. When the war finally paused, the galaxy felt strangely quiet, as if every world was holding its breath at the same time. For months, explosions, warnings, threats, and angry broadcasts had been echoing across star systems. Now there was only silence. But this silence did not feel peaceful. It felt heavy, full of fear, regret, and confusion. People across many planets kept asking the same question. How did everything go so wrong so fast? None of them knew the full truth. Only Captain Mara Elian and a few members of her crew understood how small misunderstandings had grown into a giant fire that nearly destroyed everyone. Moment Mara's final message spread through the galaxy, her emotional voice, explaining humanity's true origin, her honest fear, her desperate wish for peace. Something changed. Ordinary citizens on other planets, people who had never seen a human before, listened to her trembling voice and felt something real. They felt that she was not lying. She sounded too human, too fragile, too sincere. She did not sound like a monster pretending to be peaceful. She sounded like a living being trying to survive. And that made millions of listeners pause and think. On some worlds, people marched into the streets demanding their leaders stop the war. On others, soldiers put down their weapons and refused to fight. Even some Varian citizens who had been told since childhood that the Hilari were evil began to question the old stories. They asked themselves why the Varian High Council had hidden so much history. Why had they never shown proof of the Hilari threat? Why did they seem so afraid of humanity's arrival? Slowly, doubts spread like cracks in a wall that had stood for centuries. Meanwhile, Captain Mara and her crew were not celebrating. They were floating in a damaged ship, surrounded by the wreckage of battles they never wanted to be part of. Their shields were broken. Their engines were weak. Their food supply was low. And even though the fighting had stopped, they knew the danger was far from over. A single angry commander, a single frightened politician, a single mistake could restart the war instantly. Mara felt the weight of millions of lives pressing on her shoulders. She had never wanted to be a hero, but now she carried the responsibility of preventing another galaxy-wide disaster. Negotiators from different star nations began to meet at a neutral station near the Orion Nebula. It was a vast structure, older than most civilizations, considered sacred by many species because no weapon had ever been fired inside it. It was the only place everyone trusted enough to gather. The humans were invited not as members of the war, but as witnesses and speakers. Mara felt nervous as she stepped inside the shining hall filled with delegates from dozens of worlds. Some stared at her with curiosity, others with suspicion, and a few with fear. They still believed she might be a disguise to lie, but no one attacked her. The war had exhausted everyone. The discussions were long and heated. The Varian Empire insisted that humanity must be monitored and restricted until their origins were completely proven. Other nations argued that humanity had done nothing wrong and should be welcomed warmly. Some representatives shouted old accusations, pointing to the ancient war with the Hilari. Others countered by demanding proof. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy openly questioned the truth of its own past. During one session, a historian from the Terix Commonwealth revealed newly discovered records. These records suggested that the Hilari might not have been the monsters the Varian claimed. They showed desperate messages from the Hilari asking for peace, asking for negotiation, asking for understanding. Messages that the Varian had ignored. The room fell silent. It became clear that the old war had not been a simple story of good versus evil. It had been a tragedy of fear and misunderstanding, just like the new conflict that nearly destroyed the galaxy again. Mara listened quietly, her heart heavy. She knew the truth was complicated, and she also knew that her species was still in danger. Many worlds were terrified that humans might have hidden abilities or secret armies or unknown allies. Mara repeated again and again that humanity had none of those things. "We came alone," she said. "We came to learn, not to fight." Her calm voice became a symbol of hope for many, not because she had power but because she had honesty. Her sincerity cut through the fear surrounding her. After many weeks of negotiation, a temporary agreement was reached. Humanity would be given protected status. No nation could attack them. They would be allowed to explore, but always under supervision until complete trust was built over time. It was not perfect, but it was far better than war. Many nations supported the decision. Even some Varian leaders reluctantly accepted it, though their anger simmered beneath the surface. When Mara returned to the soulless horizon, her crew welcomed her with tired smiles. Their ship was repaired with help from alien engineers, and for the first time since entering the galaxy, they could breathe without fear. But Mara did not feel relieved. She felt changed. She had seen how quickly misunderstandings could turn into violence. She had witnessed how leaders manipulated fear for their own power. She had watched entire civilizations nearly destroy each other because of ancient stories. That humans eventually sent a message back to Earth, explaining everything. Months later, the reply came. Earth was proud, grateful, and shocked. But they also warned Mara that humanity must step carefully. Not everyone in the galaxy truly believed the war was over. Some groups still whispered that humans were the return of the Hell. Some extremists demanded vengeance. Mara knew their journey was far from safe. The galaxy would watch their every move, judge every mistake, and react quickly to any misunderstanding. But she also believed something else, that peace, even a fragile one, was still a beginning. She looked at the stars outside the bridge window, stars that had once felt threatening and hostile. Now they seemed different, not peaceful, but full of possibility. She imagined a future where humanity worked side by side with alien civilizations, where stories of fear became stories of unity, where the past no longer controlled the future. Historians would later write that the war began not because humanity arrived, but because the galaxy remembered an old trauma it had never healed. They would say that Captain Mara Elyon became the accidental face of peace in a conflict she never chose. They would tell how one ship, one message, and one voice stopped billions from destroying each other. But for Mara, the truth was simpler. She believed that wars start when people stop listening, and peace begins when even one person chooses to speak honestly. And so she continued her mission, traveling deeper into the stars with her crew. They were still watched, still judged, still feared by some, but they were also welcomed by many who had grown tired of endless wars and ancient hatred. The galaxy had changed forever, not because of power, but because of understanding. And for the first time, Mara felt that humanity truly belonged among the stars, not as conquerors, not as ghosts of the past, but as a new voice in a galaxy that finally wanted to listen.